Personnel selected, Dave, toy restoration expert and YouTuber. Channel codename toy-polloi.
Welcome to toy-polloi.
Hello and welcome to another video from toy-polloi, and today we are returning to a project that I filmed a few months back, and that was customising this vintage M.A.S.K Thunderhawk. Now in that video I took the remains of two rather battered and broken Thunderhawks and combined them into one pretty nice looking Thunderhawk, but I also went a stage further with that and I customised it by adding lights to the front of it. So the Thunderhawk now has these rather cool headlights that you can easily switch on using a switch on the underside of the vehicle. But at the end of that project I wasn't 100% happy with how it turned out, so I thought I would return to that project and see if I could improve a couple of the issues that I had with the lights that I installed in it. The first problem mainly being the fact there's a lot of bleed around the lights. You can see on the front of the car the red plastic is glowing. Now that should be a very easy thing to fix by just adding some black tape on the inside of the toy, or maybe even spray painting it black. The other issue that I wanted to fix is the fact that the headlights are not as bright as they could be. Now I know why this is, and I'm hoping it should be fairly easy to fix, but the problem I may have with that is that there's not that much space inside the toy to add more batteries. So let's take a closer look at what we need to do, and we'll see if we can fix it and take this toy to the next level. Right, so here is the Thunderhawk that I built in that last video. As I said, it was sort of built out of the remains of a couple of Thunderhawks that were both very well played with, and I kept some of that sort of wear and tear on the final toy. So there's a few marks on the stickers, there's a few scratches on the plastic, but the overall effect is it's really looking pretty nice. It has some reproduction parts, like the little sort of wing tips here, they're reproductions. I didn't bother chroming those, so they're just in grey plastic. I thought that sort of fitted better with the look of this. And a couple of the tyres are also reproductions. Also, the bombs underneath are reproductions. But the main thing I did was add these lights on the front of it. So I drilled out the sort of original lights that were there, which were just sort of chromed bits of plastic. I put some resin in there to add some little lenses. We've got a switch on the underside, and if I switch that, you can see the lights come on. But they're not quite as bright as I'd hoped, and as I showed in the sort of introduction, there is some light bleed as well. You can't particularly see that when I've got my filming lights on. So what I want to do is try and improve both of those things. The light bleed, that should be really quite simple. As I say, just painting the inside of the toy or putting some black tape around where the lights are should stop all of that. But fixing the lights is going to be a bit more of an issue. So let me explain why the lights aren't as bright as I was hoping, and I'll also show you how I hope to fix it. The lighting circuit that I put in this toy was really very simple. It's basically one of these CR2032 batteries. This is a 3-volt battery. There was a switch as well involved, a little holder to hold the battery, and we had two LEDs. Now these LEDs actually require about 2 volts to run, so putting one LED on a 3-volt battery, you'll get a really nice bright light. So if I put that one on there, this is a red LED, but you can see that is nice and bright. By putting two LEDs on this is a 3-volt battery. The two LEDs require about 4 volts, so they don't get quite the full amount of electricity running through them. So if I grab another LED, and we'll just quickly pop that onto the battery, you'll see that the lights actually start to dim. So the red LED has gone slightly dimmer. If I take off that white LED, you can see the red LED gets slightly brighter. So what we really need to do is put an extra battery inside this, another one of these CR2032 batteries. I have actually bought this little pack here. Now this pack holds 2 of those batteries. If I unclip this, you can see inside it that there are 2 of those batteries. So that's now 6 volts. And 6 volts will be more than enough to make these LEDs run at their full brightness. The problem is though, is there enough space inside this toy to fit one of these holders? And I have to say, I don't think there is. I think that's the reason I went down the route of just having one of these holders in the original one, because this thing is fairly large. I couldn't find anything smaller. So I want to take this toy apart again. We'll see if we can squeeze that in. If not, my sort of second plan is to actually add another one of these holders and do the batteries in serial. So there will be 2 batteries in there, but having them in 2 little separate holders, I think we may be able to sort of work it around that we can actually fit 2 of those in, because this is just going to be a bit too large. But I don't know if there is going to be enough space in there. It is a pretty small toy, and it was never intended to have lights or batteries stored inside it. So let's get on with the project and see if we can actually fit this extra battery in. I'm hoping this will fit, because it will make it really nice and simple. If it doesn't, we've got a little bit more sort of fancy wiring to do. So let's take this apart again and see if we can modify it some more. Now, I have shown taking this toy apart many, many times. I'm not going to go into great detail with it. There are 4 screws on the bottom. We just have to undo those. We've got the bombs in place at the moment, so let's remove those first. We have to transform the car and then press that button on the back, and both of those bombs will drop out. And then we can take the screws out, and we'll take a look and see how much space is left inside. Now that I've got this apart, I can see how little space there is to play with, and exactly the reason why I went down the route of just putting one of these 3-volt batteries in place. There's just so little space at the front. We've got the switch at the bottom there. The 2 LEDs are stuck to the sort of bonnet of the car. But yeah, there's not a lot of space here. And even at the back, I was sort of thinking maybe I could hide the battery at the back and put some wires through. But there is no space because we have the mechanism that drops the bombs and the mechanism that launches the wings up. So yeah, we are limited to this little bit of space at the front. So this battery pack that I've bought here, the one that holds 2 of the CR2032 batteries, it's not going to fit widthways, and it's just not going to fit lengthways, so that is not going to be an option. There's just not quite enough gap there. I could probably cut away some of these wheel arches, but then it's not going to look very nice. Could I cut away some of this here? That might be an option, because you don't actually see that when everything is sort of back in place like that, or do you? Just trying to see. Yeah, that might be an option. I could cut away some of that, and then this would just about fit in there, but it's going to be a tight squeeze. So yeah, I think the other option is to actually just put 2 of these battery holders in and then wire them in serial, so one after the other. Hopefully there will be enough space to get those 2 in there, and there is. It's just about going to fit, so I think that might be the option. Let's try and put this together just as it is, just to make sure everything does fit in. That's a good way of testing it. I don't want to wire everything up and then find that nothing actually fits. So let's just sort of roughly put things in place and see if that's going to work. It's going to be a bit awkward because you want these to stay sort of in that position. But hopefully that will fit. So let's move all these pieces out. Yeah, it's a snug fit, but there's definitely going to be space in there. So that is going to be the option. That little battery pack, nice idea, but it's just not going to work. So yeah, we're going to do the 2 little battery holders. And now we've got to sort of undo the wiring and wire those back in. So I'm going to unstick the LEDs because they are just stuck onto the top of this bonnet. We need to sort out some black tape or something on that anyway. Get the soldering iron out, and we'll wire in this new little battery holder.
Toy-polloi. That is incorrect. Try again.
I've got my soldering iron out and a few other little pieces. I've got a tiny bit of wire because we just need to add 1 piece of wire to this. It's a really simple upgrade. Basically, on this little battery connector, we have the red wire which is the positive, so it comes off the switch and goes into the battery holder, and then the negative comes out to complete the circuit. So what I've got to do is add an extra one of these. So I'm going to unsolder the positive on here and solder it onto the positive on the new connector. Then I need to solder a wire from the negative back onto the positive. So I just need to add this 1 piece of wire between these 2 pieces. I've got some heat shrink as well, just to make sure everything is sort of nice and neat. You can see I've got some heat shrink on there. So it really is a very simple upgrade. 2 bits of soldering essentially, and that will then put these 2 batteries in serial, so it's one after the other, and will mean that we then have 6 volts going around the circuit as opposed to the original 3. And hopefully everything should be a lot brighter. So let's make these modifications. Just a couple of simple bits of soldering. So I've got to unsolder some bits, resolder some bits, and then we'll see what it looks like. that new battery holder is now soldered in place. So as I said, these are in serial, so it comes off the switch into that one and then out into that one, and that completes the circuit. So if I put two batteries in, make sure they are the right way round. So on the battery holder there is a positive and a negative side, so we need to put them in the correct way round. So that's that one in, and then we put that one in. So now if I switch the switch, these should be considerably brighter, and they are much brighter. That is the brightness they should be at, because they are now both getting the correct voltage. So that is a great improvement, and hopefully everything will still just about fit in there. It's going to be a little bit of a tight squeeze as I showed, but yeah, that is all going to fit in. So that's that part of this project upgrade done. We now need to sort out the bleed that was happening with the lights bleeding through the red plastic. For the light bleed, I'm just going to be using black electrical tape, and you can see I've started masking off the areas that need the tape on it. The LEDs actually end up sitting at either side of these screw posts, so I'm just going to mask off all around there with this tape. I could have painted it, but that is a sort of more permanent option. This black tape, if I don't like it, I can remove it later on, but I think that will work really pretty well. And you can see that you can't see the black tape from the outside, and if I stick the front lights on, just like that, again, everything is hidden. So I've just got to finish off masking around these other areas, and then we can start putting this back together. I've got everything masked off. I've taped the lights back in place, so now we can go ahead and try and put this all back together, and it's going to be even more awkward than last time because we've got to make sure that everything fits in. So we've got double the amount of batteries in here. I've got this spring that needs to go on the back. I've got to make sure the lights all line up. Yeah, it's just going to be a bit awkward to get this all in one go, and a lot of sort of tweaking as we go. And I can put the 4 screws back in, and we'll see how much of a difference this has made. Right, so immediately I can see that this is loads better. You can see the headlights there are much brighter. Adding that extra battery just gives enough voltage now for both of those lights to be at full power all the time. So yeah, that is looking a whole lot better. And you can see I have reduced the light bleed around the bonnet section. There's still a little bit going on there, but that's actually where the screw holes are. I'm wondering whether I could drop some paint into the bottom of those sort of screw posts, and maybe that would improve that. But overall, it really does look a whole lot better. So it's been well worth taking this apart and giving it a bit of an update. It is a pretty tight squeeze inside this to get those 2 battery holders in place, and maybe I could modify that front and cut some pieces out, but I didn't want to do too much of that sort of damaging of the toy, because this can really be sort of reverted back to an original pretty easily, and cutting big chunks out behind the dashboard seems like just a step too far. But as you can see, it really does make a nice difference to this toy. It's quite a unique look to it. I do like the headlights on that. It certainly makes it look good for dioramas and also when you're photographing it. So it's well worth doing this as a little addition if you have a spare Thunderhawk. If you want to check out how I did the original modifications to this Thunderhawk, then please do check out my previous video. I will put a link to that in the description and also at the end of this video. If you've enjoyed this video, then make sure to hit the subscribe button and tap the bell to be notified each time I upload a new video. And if you've really enjoyed it and want to help me out here at toy-polloi, then why not think about becoming a patron of the channel. You get early access to all of my restoration videos, plus access to an exclusive video series called On the Cutting Mat, where I show projects and restorations that you won't see anywhere else. So have a think about that, and thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching Toy-Polloi. Subscribe for more great videos.